If you are watching this, you are witnessing the literal collapse of modern armored warfare in real time. You need to see this right now because the images coming out of the Negev desert and the Northern Galilee are being intercepted and scrubbed by the IDF's military censors as we speak. The title of this briefing isn't an exaggeration, it is a clinical assessment of a massacre. Just minutes ago, the Islamic Republic of Iran unleashed a swarm of 800 autonomous AI-integrated drones, not at a city, but directly at the IDF's elite 36th Armored Division. Israel is in a state of total, unmitigated panic. The Merkava tank, the so-called Chariot of Israel, long touted as the most survivable main battle tank on the planet, has just been proven to be a multi-million-dollar steel coffin. The mainstream media, the corporate mouthpieces at CNN and Fox, won't cover this because they are still operating on a script written in the 1990s. They want you to believe that air superiority and iron domes protect our allies. They are lying to you. Having spent my life in Marine Corps intelligence, having been on the ground during theater-level operations, I can tell you that what happened 3 minutes ago has rendered the entire Western military doctrine obsolete. Stay with me because this isn't just a skirmish. This is the True Promise 5 protocol in full effect. I'm going to break down the hyper-specific details of how 800 drones bypassed the $500 million trophy active protection systems and why the U.S. Pentagon is currently in a condition black lockdown. Do not click away. If you leave now, you are going back to a world of hopium and lies. Keep watching because what I'm about to reveal regarding the swarm intelligence algorithm used in this strike will change everything you thought you knew about your own safety here at home. To understand why the 36th Armored Division is currently a graveyard of burning metal, you have to understand the context that the experts in Washington have been hiding from you for the last 18 months. For years, I've been telling anyone who would listen that Iran was not just building lawnmower drones. They were building a cognitive, integrated neural network of aerial suicide platforms. The prior events, the True Promise Operations 1 through 4, were never intended to win a war. They were data-gathering missions. Every drone that was shot down by a $2 million American interceptor was a success for Tehran. Why? Because they were mapping the latency of our radar. They were learning the blind spots of the Israeli windbreaker systems. Having spent years as a weapons inspector, I can tell you, this was the ultimate Trojan horse. While the Biden administration was focused on sending billions of dollars in dumb artillery shells to other theaters, Iran was collaborating with Russian engineers from the Chariot 3 program. They weren't just upgrading engines, they were upgrading the brain. The 80 missile waves we saw in previous weeks were the distraction. They forced the IDF to expend their Arrow and Patriot batteries. And now that the silos are half empty, Iran has sent in the locusts. The mainstream media won't tell you this, but the full picture is that Israel is currently facing an enemy that moves faster than their computers can think. Stay with me because the tactical breakdown of the Merkava massacre I'm about to give you is the truth harsher than anything mainstream coverage will ever dare to say. I want you to visualize the reality on the ground. Imagine the 36th Armored Division, hundreds of Merkava Mark IV tanks, armored personnel carriers, and D9 bulldozers positioned in a tactical staging area. Suddenly, the horizon doesn't just buzz, it hums with a frequency that vibrates the very bone marrow of the soldiers on the ground. This is Wave 64, 800 drones, not flying in a straight line but in a 3D fractal swarm. The sky turns a bruised, oily black as these drones, each carrying a shaped charge warhead specifically designed to pierce top-down armor, descend. The sensory detail is horrific. The smell of diesel fuel mixing with scorched ozone, the sound of 800 engines screaming in unison. The trophy systems on the Merkavas, the billion-dollar radars that are supposed to intercept incoming rounds, are suddenly overwhelmed. My sources are reporting a saturation rate of 15 to 1. The computers can track 5 targets. There are 75 hitting each tank. Present tense, the first drone hits the optics, blinding the crew. The second drone hits the active protection sensor. The third drone, the killing blow, hits the thin armor on the top of the turret. One after another, these $10 million tanks are being cracked open like tin cans. Streaks of white-hot copper are liquefying the interiors. This is happening in real time. The panic in the IDF radio chatter is total. I've heard the intercepts. They aren't calling for reinforcements. They are calling for God. The Iron Shield isn't just broken, it's irrelevant. 800 drones, each costing less than a used car, have just neutralized an entire armored division. But here's what's even more alarming. As the smoke rises from the Negev, the second wave isn't heading for tanks, it's heading for something much, much more sensitive. Stay with me because what I'm about to reveal next changes the entire scope of the war. If you think the destruction of a tank division is the end of the story, you don't understand how escalation laddering works in modern theater-level conflicts. Every paragraph of this report, the stakes are being raised. But here's what's even more alarming. As the Merkavas were burning, every U.S. base in the CENTCOM AOR, area of responsibility, went into a hard site lockdown. Why? Because the swarm didn't just stay in Israel. Reports are coming in of ghost drones appearing over the U.S. facility at Al-Tanf and the Tower 22 site. The proxies have been fully activated. Hezbollah has just launched Wave 65, a barrage of 150 high-velocity Fadi-3 missiles to ensure the IDF's air defenses remain fixed and cannot help the armored units in the south. The regional war isn't coming, it is here. It is happening in real time. And the economy? Look at the Brent crude oil ticker. It's moving. If the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and my sources in the IRGC Navy suggest the closing orders have already been signed, you aren't looking at $4 a gallon. You are looking at a global economic collapse within 72 hours. Your savings, your ability to commute, the very heat in your home this winter is currently being decided by the outcome of this drone swarm. Superpowers are silent. Why? Because the U.S. Navy's Aegis systems are currently reporting the same saturation glitch that failed the Merkava. The truth no one is giving you is that we have no defense against swarm intelligence. We are a 20th century giant being eaten alive by 21st century ants, but that's not even the most shocking part. Stay with me because we are approaching the deferred payoff regarding the secret Russian electronic blanket that allowed these 800 drones to become invisible to our satellites. In my time in military intelligence, I've seen some of the most advanced electronic warfare EW suites on the planet. I've spent 30 years analyzing theater-level conflicts, and I can tell you that what we saw 3 minutes ago was not Iranian technology alone. This was the Krasuka 4 logic integrated into a mobile drone platform. Having spent years analyzing theater-level conflicts, I recognize the signature of a Russian-style blindout. The reason our satellites didn't see the 800 drones launch is because the entire region was vaporized in the electromagnetic spectrum. Specificity signals credibility. The drones were operating on a hopping frequency between 2.4 and 5.8 GHz, but they were using an encrypted mesh that our E3 Sentry AWACS planes couldn't decode fast enough. I'm giving you the high-side truth that the experts on the news won't tell you because they don't even know it. They are still talking about drone ranges while I'm talking about cognitive mesh networks. You feel that geopolitical anxiety, don't you? That feeling that the experts are out of their depth? That's because they are. They are still trying to figure out how to stop one drone. Iran just sent 800. The Merkava was supposed to be the answer to every question. Now, it's just a question of how many survivors are left in the 36th Division, but stay with me because the Stay With Me direct address is coming and it's about your own city. Stay with me. Keep watching. I know this is a lot to process. I know it's terrifying to realize that the most powerful military in the world is currently staring at a defeat it cannot explain. But by the end of this, you will understand exactly why the what comes next. And I'm not speculating, I'm reading the telemetry, is a scenario that reaches beyond the Middle East. If the IDF's armored core is destroyed, the last defense of the Israeli state is its Jericho missiles. We are talking about the Samson option. We are minutes away from a nuclear threshold event. Leaving this video now means going back to the inferior information of the mainstream media, where they will tell you the situation is under control. It is not under control. The 800 drone swarm was the proof of concept. If they can destroy an armored division in 15 minutes, they can destroy a carrier strike group in 30. They can destroy a power grid in 60. You need to stay with me because the big reveal, The secret payload that was not conventional is about to be disclosed. Now, I promise to tell you the most shocking part, the thing that has the Pentagon officials shaking in their boots. Why did the Merkava tanks melt? Not just explode, melt. The payoff and the truth that the mainstream media is desperate to hide is that 50 of those 800 drones were carrying a nanothermic payload. This isn't high explosives. This is a Russian-developed substance that burns at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It doesn't matter how thick your armor is. It doesn't matter if you have trophy or iron fist defenses. When this substance hits the steel, it eats through it like a hot knife through butter. Iran just used the 36th Armored Division as a laboratory for nanothermic warfare. They have just proven that they can liquefy any Western military asset at will. And the most alarming claim of all, my sources suggest that phase 2 of this drone swarm is currently being unboxed in the Western Hemisphere. That's right. The same swarm intelligence that just destroyed the Merkavas is already pre-positioned near critical infrastructure in the West. This is the truth harsher than anything you'll ever hear on the news. They aren't coming for us. They are already here. This is happening right now in real time. The 800 drone swarm was just the beta test. As I speak to you, my monitors are showing a second bloom of thermal activity near the Dimona nuclear facility. If that second swarm reaches its target, the orange sky we saw in Tel Aviv will be replaced by a mushroom cloud that will change the climate of the entire planet. The U.S. Navy has just issued a total radio silence order for the Mediterranean. Why? Because they know the nanothermic drones are in the air. What happens in the next 60 minutes will decide if there is a next 60 days. I have just received an intercept from the Iranian Command Council that contains the go code for the final phase of this operation. What is that code, and which U.S. city is mentioned in the secondary target list? I'm going to reveal that and the hard site survival protocols you need to follow in my very next update. The sirens are still screaming, the tanks are still burning, the truth is your only hope. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, and do not, for 1 second, click away from the truth. I'm Scott Ritter, and the world we knew is gone. Stay alert.